So I started out with about 2 meters of this kind of amazing iridescent organza, and we're going to make a robe out of it. To start off with, find the center and fold the 2 corners in to meet that. This will give you a large piece for the back and 2 smaller pieces for the front, which I'm now just cutting apart down, well, I used the fold lines. Here I'm laying one of the front pieces on top of the back piece. I measured down about how big I wanted the sleeve to be, and then inwards about how far I wanted it to go. Measured halfway down the remaining length of the fabric. Now I'm just going to freehand a teardrop kind of shape that's going to form the side and the underarm. That shape will then get flipped around and sewn onto the lower end of the robe in order to give it more fullness at the bottom and less around the body. And now I'm just repeating that on the other side, so cut those apart, so smaller front piece, large back piece. Lay the front piece on top. And for this side, I can use the side I've already cut as a template. You can see the sleeve shape at the top and the shaping under the arm, and I'm just going to cut out this teardrop. A top tip if you are sewing with organza, if you have a rolled hem foot, use that to do all of your seams. They don't come out perfect rolled hems, but it does do a lot to help prevent it from fraying. However, obviously that robe is see-through, so I need a top to go underneath it. This is just a long strip of fabric, which I've actually torn out of an old sheet. I've folded it in half with the fold at the top, that's going to be your shoulders, and I'm cutting out a neckline. Make sure it's centered on the body, and then make sure it is deeper in the front than it is in the back. I actually think I could have shifted the whole thing much further forward, and this neckline was still a little bit too high in front. But the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to hang slightly unevenly from front to back. I could have just belted this, but I actually wanted to put some ties on it, so I pulled out from my stash these strips of kind of stretchy blue mesh. And I decided I was going to attach 2 in front, quite high up, and 1 in the back, sort of at the waistline. Now there's lots of ways you can put a design on fabric, but honestly, if you are short on time and not hugely interested in longevity, you can just paint straight on fabric with acrylic. It lasts reasonably well. I knew I wanted to do a blue background for this symbol, so I started by sketching out roughly how I wanted it to look in blue. You can also use a pencil if you don't want to fill in the background. While I'm painting, you're probably wondering what this whole atomic priesthood thing is all about. Unless you already know, but talk about culturally specific bits of information. So there's this thing called nuclear semiotics, which is basically the study of how you encode nuclear warning messages over the lifetime of nuclear waste, which is of course millennia. I highly recommend you look it up. They are fascinating and include such weird and wonderful suggestions as flowers and cats that change colour when exposed to nuclear radiation. No one really established how those were actually going to work. Intimidating architecture to try and scare people away. Fundamentally misunderstanding how human beings work, at least any human being that's ever played Dungeons & Dragons. Encoded warning messages, some of which you may have heard before. And then, of course, the atomic priesthood. The idea that you would create a religion around the idea that nuclear waste was bad and should be stayed away from, and that this would keep people safe. It lends itself very well to a particularly gentle and benign kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland. And I've always been very fond of the idea of a gentle ray punk style future where much has been forgotten, but the things that are remembered are a little bit offbeat. Principally, I hope this costume build has given you some ideas for how you can put together some quite pleasing looking garments out of very, very basic shapes and very little sewing. Never underestimate a bold colour scheme and some really obvious symbology to get your point across. I think you can make a costume similar to this one in shape, but with a lot of different aesthetics, just by changing out the colours, what symbols you used, maybe some of the fabrics, and it all goes together really quickly and with relatively little sewing. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you for another costume in our Halloween 2020 collection tomorrow. This place is a message and part of a system of messages. Pay attention to it. Sending this message was important to us. We considered ourselves to be a powerful culture. This place is not a place of honour. No highly esteemed deed is commemorated here. Nothing valued is here. What is here was dangerous and repulsive to us. This message is a warning about danger. The danger is in a particular location. It increases towards the centre. The centre of danger is here, of a particular size and shape, and below us. The danger is still present in your time as it was in ours. The danger is to the body and it can kill. The form of the danger is an emanation of energy. The danger is unleashed only if you substantially disturb this place physically. This place is best shunned and left uninhabited.